Hey, welcome to Labor Goes to the Movies with me, Chris Garlock, director of the DC Labor Filmfest, and my sister in Cinematic Solidarity, Elise Bryant, executive director of the Labor Heritage Foundation. Our guests this week are Andrea Arenas, communications and policy coordinator for the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement and co-host of the El Desvio podcast. She'll be doing the Q&A for identifying features in SEñAS Particulares on Wednesday, March 31st. We're also joined by labor journalist Sarah Jaffe, author of the great new book, Work Won't Love You Back: How Devotion to Our Jobs Keeps Us Exploited, Exhausted, and Alone. Sarah also co-hosts the terrific Belabored podcast. I think you'll really enjoy our discussion with Andrea and Sarah. We talk about our first movies, about the things we're missing from being stuck watching movies at home during the pandemic. And we even have some tips on how to watch scary movies. So grab your popcorn, sit back and relax, and enjoy the show. Andrea, welcome to Labor Goes to the Movies. Really appreciate you spending a little of your Friday morning with us.
It's great. It's great.
We wanted to have you on, of course, because you're doing the Q&A for one of our films in our Labor Film Fest Spring Series. But honestly, this podcast is really very, very informal.
Great.
¿Cómo se dice informal en español? ¿Informal?
Yep.
Sí, sí.
Muy informal.
Morning.
Oh, Sarah, you really did. Good morning.
Hey, you got to tell me if I've got to do video, because I don't look like this most days.
Yes, you
put on
do.
makeup
You wake up looking like that, don't you? According to all the movies I see, you all wake up looking just like that, right?
Right. Sure.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And I was just telling Andrea, this is a very informal podcast. Elise and I were talking. She was getting her tea while we were getting ready, and we're like, okay, that's the way this podcast is. We just hang out, we get our tea, and then we talk about movies. So.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna get my coffee while we
get your coffee, tea, whatever it is that you're drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. We're not judgmental here.
TGIF.
Maybe I just won't. Also, code for something.
So we wanted you both to be on because you're both doing Q&As in the Labor Film Fest series. And we'll probably talk a little bit about the movies that you're going to do, but we're more interested in your relationship with movies and actually, TV too, if you're into that. These platforms are getting very confusing anymore. It doesn't matter what you're watching, where you're watching. So we usually start out by asking folks about like what Elise, share your movie experience to sort of give a flavor, your first movie memory.
Oh, my first movie memory. Yeah. We had a little local theater. It was called The Flick, right? And I didn't even know it was, short for Flicker or Flick movie. But anyway, we went to The Flick, and I was with my parents, and I always guess I'm about 5 years old or 6 years old. I remember being quite short to my father's hand. And we walked in, and, in the darkness, and then the screen lit up, and it was like, oh, whoa, Daddy, look at the big TV. And it was just huge. And the movie was Prince Valiant, and it was in Technicolor. And the colors were so bright, and the horses were just huge, and the blue of Prince Valiant's cape was just awesome. And I was just like, this is true magic. And I feel that thing when I go to the movie theater now, although I haven't been in over a year, so who knows what it'll be like when I go back. But yeah, that was my first experience of movies and movie theaters.
But when Elise and I go to the movies together, she's just like, I think, and I know that story. I think that little girl comes back out because she's like me. She doesn't like to talk in the movies.
Oh yeah, no, hush. We can talk all through the credit. I mean, the commercials and the trailers and all that stuff. But once the movie starts, it's nay no nay on the talk cake.
but there's just people who will just talk.
Oh my God. Oh, come on. You don't both have friends?
My mom, there's this very scary movie. I forget it, the Incubus. I don't know. It's got a really weird name and it's scary. Were you gonna say something, Sarah? No, a name? Well, it freaks me out, this movie. But if I watch it with my mom, I'm never scared. I just can't. I don't have the time, right? She's like, oh my God, she's gonna go into the kitchen. She's gonna do it. She's gonna look at her shoes. Where do you think those shoes?
Thank you, Mom.
You need to send your mom to my house because I can't watch scary movies. Maybe with your mom.
I can't watch scary movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nothing scary with her.
No.
Yeah. My mother, watching movies with my mother is like, what's going to happen? Tell me and I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Why is he doing that? I don't know. I didn't write the movie. I wish I wrote the movie. I'd make more money.
Now, I do like to watch a scary movie with a largely African American audience.
Oh yeah.
That's
don't go in the closet. Do not. What?
King Kong. This was my favorite. King Kong. He got a death complex. Oh no, death wish. He got a death wish. I was like, really? You think King Kong's got a death wish? That's why he's climbing on top of the building. It was great. It was like the audience was silent when it came out. It was just like everybody cracked up. I was just hysterical. I love it.
Remember seeing we grew up in Rochester, New York, and there was the old Capitol Theater, which is an old movie palace, one of the last movie palace. I think it's gone now. I'm sure it's gone now, but it was across the street in Main Street, Rochester, and all Black audience because it was Black downtown at that point. And I saw Halloween there, which is not a scary movie if you see it with a Black audience. No.
So somebody's gonna write to us and say we're like making stereotypes. We're like, no, you haven't seen a movie with a largely Black audience. Too bad. No, it's great. It's great. It really is.
So Andrea, do you have a memory of like your first film or a film that was really influential when you were growing up?
So when you just asked Elise, I started thinking, what was the first movie I ever went to the theater for, to the movies? And I'm pretty sure it was Rocky.
Oh wow! Which one?
4.
Wow.
You got it. Wow.
In Colombia, and then I just remember that he died. He dies, right? Is it in 4 or 5? Or
I stopped watching around 2 or 3.
He gets like something, and he's sick, right? Because he got too many punches to the head, and my brother and I were just like on the floor of the theater, like. Yes, se va a morir. We just didn't want him to die.
Well, good for you. He does. He makes like 10 more, I think.
Right? Yeah, he's still there.
Sarah, what about you?
So I'm racking my brain now, and I don't remember what the first movie I saw in the theater was. Isn't that crazy? It wasn't. I mean, I guess it was pretty long ago, but like, yeah, I don't remember.
It's a
Or
tough one.
or another way to ask it is something that, and another one of my stories is I saw Star Wars when it came out, but I didn't know. I just went with some friends. They just took me, and I had no idea what was happening. And when, you know, that first thing when the spaceship comes over, and I was sort of like Elise. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was so that's like a really seminal memory for me. So I mean, do you have a movie like that that really just sort of had a big effect on you?
I remember, so this is really funny. I remember walking out of Ghostbusters 2 because I was terrified, which is ridiculous because it's a Ghostbusters movie. Like you watch that now and you're like, I was scared of what now? I was scared of fucking painting, apparently. I think that's what it was. Yeah, but I remember like being like terrified, and like my sister and I were there with like our babysitter had taken us, and we were just like, I need to go. No, out, I'm out. And how old was I? Must have been, what year did that movie come out? I don't even remember. Like, look at this. I love movies, and I almost went to film school, and I can't remember the first movie I saw in the theater. How depressing is that?
So you like wouldn't even get in. That's one of the questions they asked, Sarah.
It's Friday morning. I've had a long week. They're trying to kill my industry again, which is like a bi-weekly occurrence. But you know, they laid off half the Huffington Post staff, and the New Republic is being rejiggered again. And I just, you know, it's hard actually to think about anything else when your jobs are dying.
I hear you, sister.
Fair enough. But actually, that sort of sets up another question, which is when you have, I mean, for me, I mean, we're all activists, right? And so we all have, unfortunately, a lot of weeks like that, some worse than others. Is there something that you turn to in those times? Because I turn to movies, because movies are a way for me to fool myself into feeling like I'm engaged, but it's not completely, it's not like I'm watching documentaries, right? But that's sort of my therapy. That's what I turn to. Does that work for you at all? Or
Yeah, I mean, I thought about watching Nomadland last night, which I've like talked myself out of several times because I would just think like, oh, that person sold her labor story and turned it into an award-winning movie. Maybe that's what I should do. Great. Put more pressure on yourself, Sarah. So it doesn't exactly work that way. It just looks like another thing. It's like, I need to go for a walk and like leave my phone at home is what I really need to do. That way the depressing news can't keep up.
It'll just be there when you get back.
Yeah. I was so desperate last year to find something that was just total brain candy.
Yeah.
That I watched Django.
How was that?
Wait. Now, which now?
Django.
Django, not Django.
Not Django, Django.
Okay, because that's not brain candy. I don't know what it is, but it's not brain candy.
No, that's not. No, Django is something else. No, that's hard there. That's terrible. No, Django. It had Forrest Whitaker and Key of Key and Peele, Michael Keenan. Michael Key. Yeah, with the stars, and it was this like fantasy Christmas movie. Hence the name Django, as in Jingle Jangle. Maybe it's called Jingle Jangle. Anyway, I go on. But it was total brain candy. Total brain candy. It was like, it had these fantastic colors and fantastic costumes that was like Black Panther goes Christmas, right? And this interracial cast. It was this totally made up place in the world. And Forrest Whitaker was just fantastic as a sort of mad scientist, good guy, who trains Key in his trade, and Key takes it over and turns it into a capitalist adventure, and just totally wrecks the whole thing. And then they get it back, of course. And the little girl is the Shiro, and she's just smart and bright, and she's got her little guy friend who is a big blurred black nerd, and the two of them solve the whole thing, and it's just ridiculously fun, and nothing in between, but delightful.
But I feel that during these, the last year, honestly, at least for me, when I'm looking for a movie, I feel like something, at the end of the day, something light, something easy. I watched 2 days ago, for the very first time, King Arthur. Comedy of this American who suddenly becomes the next in line for the throne, and it's
right.
it's just super funny. It's silly, but it was great. But that's it is really helpful. And then even when it's some serious topics, it's also it's another chance to see it in another way, and many things that we're still living, but definitely a very nice break. I'm wondering what it's going to be like when we get back into the movie theater. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, interesting.
It's well, that's one of the things too, is that we're watching, I watch a lot of films for the film festival. I have to watch a lot of films. I've been doing it for years, and watch them on your TV. And one of the things that I have to do, this big difference is you're watching it on a smaller screen, but you're also watching it alone, which is so different than watching it with an audience. And it's normally I didn't mind it because I also go to the movies every week, right? And now I haven't gone to the movies for a year, and the most might be, Lisa might be sitting there laughing next to me, and that's not the same as an audience. And at least I know for you, I mean, you're a theater person. I mean, you thrive on human connection.
Plus, I'm an extrovert.
Yeah,
so I get more energy from people. Yeah. No, it's really remarkable. I mean, I theater is my first love. I mean, movies are the backup. So yeah, being with other folks, even if they're talking, gives energy. But it's been an interesting transition doing this stay-at-home thing. And I remember like the first time I saw a concert was a People's Music Network concert on my TV. I'd plug the iPad into the TV, so I had the big screen. And I got my tea out, my little muffy slippers, and I sat down. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. No parking payments, no,
traffic.
So yeah, and so, but I'm jonesing for that community experience of being in the theater, the movies, the plays.
And Sarah, I was thinking about you because, of course, you got your new book out, which, well played. It's right behind you. Good job. But, normally you would be doing, a book tour, which has its own, the travel and the hotels, and, are enough people going to turn up? Are enough people going to buy your book? That's going to be a completely different experience, right?
Yeah, you have all the anxiety and none of the fun. Everything. I mean, the reason the book is there is because this is what I do all day, every day right now, is sit at this desk and talk to people about the book. And I don't go anywhere. And I live alone. And so it's like you turn off the Zoom and then you're just like, yep, still alone. Yeah. And so it's like like I'm trying to figure out like rituals to sort of come down from like performing into the void, like at least when even if you have a half full audience at like a speaking gig, at least there are humans in the room, right? And not like numbers on a Zoom call. And it's sort of like watching a movie by yourself versus watching a movie with an audience. You're just like, oh, there are people in the world who care about things. And right now it's really cut off, and it's just really strange. Like the sort of passive encounters with people that we're just not having now, right? Like, the conversation you might have like in the ladies' room after the movie, right? I'm really missing women's bathroom conversations. Women's bathroom conversations are the best. We're just like, oh my God, I love your shoes. I love your hair. And you're best friends in 5 minutes. And like,
wait a minute. Really? Because this does not happen in the men's bathroom. We do do not speak in the bathroom.
Women have stalls, and you do your business in the stall, and then you talk about the thing.
Okay.
I don't understand why men don't have stalls, but this is a conversation for a different podcast.
We have them, but
this is the thing I have never understood about men's bathrooms.
We have them, but we're, it's in and out. And I tell you what, if you try talking to somebody in a stall, the cops will be there so fast to make your head spin.
But what Sarah's saying is absolutely true. Especially like happy hour bathrooms, and then after a while you're like, hey, yeah, yeah, you do become friends, and it's happened to me too. Even like I spoke German once in a bathroom in Germany, just because, I made up the word, I didn't know how to say bathroom. I invented it, Pipischhagen, and I ended up but you do become friends with people, and yeah, and that's missing. And what you were saying, Elise, just when there are people in an audience, different audiences respond different ways, right? So for example, say Sarah, you're talking to an audience and suddenly today, Friday, everybody's clappy and happy and interactive. And then on Monday, you're speaking about the same topic to another audience and nobody wants to
Yeah.
anything,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
even those little differences,
Mhm.
yeah, they are.
So we were watching Ashford and Simpson concert, and I go into the women's bathroom, and somebody starts going, "You're all I need to get by. You're all I need to get by. You're all I need." And pretty soon the whole line, we're waiting in line. You're all I need to get by. That's the women's bathroom. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I am so missing out here. I want to I want to ask Andrea about Latino audiences. I mean, are at movies, as long as we're talking about stereotypes, but seriously, I mean, are they different? I mean, do they react differently?
I would say that we're more on the African American side of commenting, being loud, being uh, maybe if there might be one group of people that can win us in being the happy and explosively happy. I think that maybe, yeah, African Americans can be more happy than we can sometimes. So maybe if we got both together, it would be like an explosion of fun at the movies, because that would be loud.
Fun at the movies.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that would
for
be
sure.
loud. But
Well,
I'm sorry.
well, no, one of the things that I was thinking about, just thinking about my experiences, is that it's with those audiences, both Latino and African American, that it's really more communal. I was just kind of thinking about what Sarah was talking about, that and a lot of when I go to movies, I'm there for the movie. I really want to focus on the movie. I'm really serious about it. But I'm just thinking back to when I've been in other countries, and it's like everybody's out. It's like one big living room, right? And so it's people are not individual. It's not that and so you like. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that you are in a room with the rest of the people watching, and you will hear, "I know, ay Dios," "Shh, shh, cállese." And that's something you get a lot, right? And in Latin America and here it doesn't happen a lot. Like you hear people go in and they're quiet, right? In Latin America, it's "Shh, silencio. Silencio, cabeza," when somebody's too tall to sit in the back, and we will, yeah, we won't go to the third person, the person who manages the cinema to we just handle it ourselves because we're loud and but I think that in that context to today, for example, if we even relate it to sports, and when we as humans are in one place, the enormous difference it makes. And I can compare it to maybe soccer games that they're empty now. But even when we used to go to soccer games, there's going to be the ones who are for this team are going to be on one side, on the other team are going to be on the other side, and that's not planned. It's just the way, I'm going to go here where my people are, and I'm going to go to this one. And there is communication throughout the game, throughout our reactions, right? And we don't have that currently. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that vaccine because I miss it.
Well, I think on the academic tip here, since we've been talking, I've developed a theory here. And that is, I know in the African American community, call and response is a cultural norm. The preacher says something and the church says amen. Sometimes they call for it. But you go to a black church on Sunday and you go to a white church on Sunday, you got two different experiences. I mean, we're singing, we're shouting amen, we're going back and forth, the choir singing. The difference between watching the documentary on Aretha Franklin's concert that she gave when she recorded the Amazing Grace concert, seeing it by myself was one thing. I went to the theater and saw it with a largely African American, and people were it was church in the theater. I mean, and I just felt it. So I had seen it before, and I felt it totally different being in the audience and having that call and response. And engaging in that was just, I think really it's not just not just movies. It is that call and response.
That's so funny. I was talking to a friend in the UK the other day about sort of why the sort of political obsessions that go both ways. But he was saying that well, Americans have this like rhetorical tradition that doesn't translate to nice white guys like Jeremy Corbyn. And that just led me to digging up a video of Nina Turner giving a talk at the People's Summit in 2017, where she's talking on the stage, and then she just hops off the stage, starts walking through the crowd, pulling people up and making them talk with her, and this whole thing. And it was such an amazing, amazing moment. And I was just like, yeah, that is absolutely true, that nice sort of white Anglo-Saxon men standing at the podium just don't have that energy at all. And yeah, we should think about that, what that gives more what it should give to the left and labor, honestly, right? Is taking advantage of these incredible, I think Cori Bush is the same way, right? Cori Bush also has a background in preaching, and so yeah, they're just incredible dynamic speakers, and that comes from all of the same tradition, right?
Yes. Sarah, I was just thinking, and Lise can help me out. The Lily Tomlin special where she's talking about the alien that goes to, I think I can't remember if it's a movie or the theater. Maybe it's the theater, and they come out afterwards, and she's talking about how wonderful it was. That it turns out that the alien was watching the audience, right? That they didn't realize what they were supposed to do, and they're watching the audience, and they were just watching all the people. And I have that experience because as a programmer, I've always seen the film in the film fest. I often will actually watch people, and my favorite part is actually standing at the door at the end of the movie, because I'm sort of, Sarah, I was thinking about you during a normal book tour. I mean, there's a part where you get up and you talk, and there's a Q&A. But my favorite part is always the conversations afterwards, when the individual people come up and talk. And that's my favorite part of the film festival, is when individual people stop to talk. They hated the movie, they loved the movie, what happened here, what was really going on, those individual things, rather than the formal Q&As, which tend, at least in the film festival, they tend to be, I was sort of reacting to what you were talking about, Sarah, about, when you're standing up there and there's a Q&A, so it's by the time somebody formulates a formal question, and then you have to have a formal answer, as opposed to if it's just a one-on-one conversation, I guess is what I was thinking. It's just more, I've never really thought about maybe trying to mix those two things up. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I just think we're I don't know, like I said, I'm living alone. I feel like my social skills are atrophying over the last few months, because it's just none of those little normal interactions. And it's all this formal thing, right? Because it's so hard. You can't have a Zoom call with 5 people without some sort of structure of okay, now you speak and you mute speaking. And it's just impossible to actually have spontaneous conversations, essentially.
True, it's true. You guys have done some of those. Everybody's done these family things, right? And I felt this most with those family gatherings, right? We did it for my dad's birthday, we did it for my birthday, and I had a friend who did it for his mother's, 90th, and he organized it. He had it really well organized. Okay, Sarah, now you're going to speak. Now Andrea, you're going to speak. And it was very well organized, but it was completely bloodless. Right? It just, if you tried to do that, I don't know about in your families, but in my family, if I tried to get people to speak, there'd be a rebellion.
No, my family, we're not on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, I guess Zoom ban. Is there
no, it's just no. You can have fun. We could really get, yeah.
So why?
I think it's age, actually. I think it's because my sisters are older than me, and they're retired, and so they're just they're not Zooming every day. They're not on Zoom or Us trail, And so my older sister's done it with her kids, but my other sisters have not done it at all. So they're not even remotely interested. And even Cindy, who is an extrovert like me, my older sister, I tried to get her to join our karaoke group, and she was like, "Really? How's that gonna work?" I said, "You play the song, you sing it, with the words on the screen." Oh, nope. Mm-mm.
Huh.
But that's just because it's virtual, or just even when it was face to face?
Oh no, if it was face to face, oh no, there'd be big partying going on. It'd be No, it's Zoom. They're just not into the technology.
Well, it's a little bit weird. I haven't gotten myself around doing like workout via Zoom or workout at all, honestly. But and I feel bad about that. But yeah, like Zooming, yoga. Like I'd like to be in the room, and I understand right now we can't, and the whole thing. But until we can, really, do I want to do that here? If I'm gonna look ridiculous, I might as well look ridiculous in front of a lot of people, and we can all laugh about it, as opposed to here at home. My kids don't appreciate that very much, my ridiculousness in yoga very much. So, but yeah, I think that that it's gonna be interesting when we get back. And one thing that I wanted to mention though, when we started speaking about the movies and a long time ago in Bolivia, until right before I moved here, which is like 15 years, I want to say, the movie theaters were still like the old chairs, the little ones, and up until I was like 15, I remember that you could just walk in and choose obviously wherever you wanted to sit, and you could even smoke. You can light up your cigarette, and no. You chose where to sit on this, like the person had this carton thing and just rolled up paper that had the number of the seat, and they would give you that. It was great. I miss that. That's gone. That's gone. But I have seen that if you look on Marketplace on Facebook, you can buy old cinema chairs.
Oh yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm with you. I love going to those, and there are some of those. You go out into the hinterlands. There are still some of the old theaters with the old seats, and I have real problems with the sort of the move to turn the movie theaters into actual living rooms with the easy chairs and the cup holders, and I'm not down with that.
Serving food.
Yeah, serving. I don't know. But that said, those old seats are uncomfortable as hell. Seriously. And I mean, now, because I also spend way too much time sitting there. Most people, they go there for one movie and they leave, and I'm, watching way too many movies. So maybe it's my fault, but
maybe. So I want to go back to the question and answer thing, and I wonder if this, you, Sarah, Chris, maybe Andrea, if you experienced this. I prefer to have questions, if there's a panel discussion, for instance. I'd rather have the questions written down and submitted, because when you open up the question and answer, I haven't noticed this so much on Zoom. That's true. But anyway, that you get up, people stand up and pontificate. They don't have a question.
no.
They just want to go on about whatever their topic is. And so when you talk about people coming up to you individually after a film or a book talk, it is different. I mean, it's, they're expressing their opinion, or they're asking the question because they really want to know, as opposed to, let me just phrase this question for you. So is the spotlight on me? Can I stay here a little longer? And I just wondered if you experienced that.
Oh yes. And you try, when you're moderating an in-person event, you try to gauge by how quickly people put their hands up, if they actually have a question, or if they just walked in with a speech. If they're shuffling papers around, they prepared at the speech. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst. And so, yeah, that is one thing about Zoom calls, is you can get people to type their question in the question and answer box. And then you have to at least sort of, have a question, or we can just ignore it. So I guess that's good. Yeah. I think I have not, in the long number of things that I've said that I miss in the last year, said I miss being yelled at by somebody. I mean, my favorite, honestly, was this talk that I gave a few years ago, which I was sort of testing out some of the ideas that went into this book. And this guy in the back row, and I'm sorry, Chris, it was an older white guy,
All right.
is just like shifting around in his seat as I'm talking, and finally like makes a noise and then like says something. And I just sort of stop and I'm just like, do you have something to say? And he's like, oh, I was just disagreeing with you. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to finish now. And then you can disagree with me. Because it just like, it's so friggin' rude. And then like at the end, his disagreement was like, well, I like my job, so you must be wrong. And I was like, really? You like your job? Okay. Well, I've been reporting on this subject for years, so I'm going to continue talking now. I'm real happy that you have some feelings, sir. I'm real happy that you have been taught by everything in your society that your feelings are so important that you get to interrupt whatever anyone else is doing in order to express your vague disagreement that you have no reason for.
Sounds like a toddler.
Yeah.
Been there.
And you're just like, no, actually. The fun thing about being at the front of the room is I don't have to care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And that was probably an unusual, in fact, I'm wondering how did he go to the wrong room somehow? Was he
No
misinformed?
No idea.
Should have sent it to the ladies' bathroom. Maybe we'll have a nice conversation there.
See, if he just wound up in the bathroom. See, if men just talk to each other in the bathrooms, this wouldn't happen.
I'm gonna start it. I'm telling you, when I call you from
chatting with
jail, when I
people.
call you from jail, you'll know what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we could have a whole discussion about, WMP.
Oh my goodness, I've totally derailed talking about movies.
But talking about movies and
Go ahead.
I was kind of like rewatched the other day some like parts of the Modern Times.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I realized that that's how I felt. Like if I could act right now, how do you feel after a year, and how do you feel with like life nowadays? I said, yeah.
Oh wow, that's deep.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
and it's eating us. And I imagine that if we were to do that movie nowadays, maybe it would be like the new Charles Chaplin, instead of going down the whole mechanism, and it would be maybe inside of a phone with the emojis, like that Disney picture, I think it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're just so immersed in everything that it's yeah.
Maybe it's not too late for Sarah to switch back to filmmaking and make the modern times. Sarah, what do you think?
I can be your Charles.
I mean, oh, now I'm gonna have to go watch that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's a reason it's a classic. But like the current one would be working in an Amazon warehouse, right?
That's
Like
exactly.
chasing little robots around with the packages and yeah. Oh my goodness.
And then in the
like, when was the last time we saw anything like that, where they were like, here's a movie where like we're on the shop floor.
Right.
But I was gonna say, and then the part where they're protesting, now it would be like this virtual thing. Okay, do you know what I mean? Zoom, there's a Zoom, and your little everything, but everything has changed. But the technology has changed. Our circumstances are more like the same. We're still stuck there.
Absolutely. And Sarah, you would know this really well, but this thing where the Amazon, where they're monitoring all their workers, you're supposed to make a certain number of moves per minute or something. So Andrea is completely correct. I mean, that film's all about automation, but in terms of industrial stuff and all of these jobs that all of these, older white men are really sad about losing, I don't think it's because, the jobs are so fucking wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just they paid well because they were a union. And now you've got Amazon, which is tracking your, it's Taylorism all it's to the nth degree, right?
Yeah, and they have like little gadgets on your arm. So now you have like a weird little robot scanner gadget, but it tracks everywhere you go and everything you do. And yeah, it's just like, oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, we need a movie in an Amazon warehouse. This is the thing. It's the
Well,
thing that needs to
and
happen.
I've heard this. At least I read this really, is that they have started some 12-step groups for workaholism.
Way.
Yes, 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 yes.
I
Because
mean, so this is funny. I was doing an event with Dave Zirin the other day, and he sent me this article from 1981 about workaholism. And it was so funny because like all of the things it described as like a problem in 1981 are just like what they expect you to say about yourself when you get a job interview in 2021, right?
yes,
Like
yes.
that, oh, I just work all the time and work is my favorite thing and I love my job. And like this article was like, yeah, most people just work to get a paycheck and like that's obvious.
Hmm.
But we don't actually believe that anymore. And it was so interesting to be like, whatever. Like, yeah, but how can you blame somebody for being a workaholic right now when like your boss expects that of you?
Right.
Or if you
And
work
it's
40
only-
hours, you're slacking.
Right. And it's the only addiction that's rewarded in the workplace. You come in high, you come in drunk, you out. But you come in and you say, what? It's only been 9 hours that I've been here. I'm gonna make another 12. You haven't gone home yet? No, I've been here all night. You're rewarded for it.
I mean, and not only rewarded, but like you're punished if you don't. Like, yeah, tell me about the Amazon workaholics when Amazon is going to a mega cycle that's going to be 10-hour overnight shifts. And yeah, I'm sorry, who's got a problem here? Like,
Who changes this? How? Like as the dynamics and everything is just moving so fast. Who changes this? Yeah, labor, but in a day-to-day, which is what ultimately we're fighting, right? It's a day-to-day battle. I think it's also a matter of individuals saying, hasta acá llegué, this is it. This 8 hours, clocking out, bye-bye. I think that there are times when we need to do that, especially after a year of madness, because otherwise we are in that machine like Charles Chaplin. And yes, disconnecting the workaholism that you mentioned, Elise, it's extremely, you can't. It's like you're on a roll, and you can't disconnect and you're still thinking and thinking and thinking. It's very difficult.
Attention foreman. Trouble on bench 5. Check on the nut tightness. Nuts coming through loose on bench 5. Attention foreman. Back. Section 5, more speed, 4-7. Relief man passing. Relief man passing. going. Get back to work. Go on.
What must it be like in hospitals? I mean, it was starting to go crazy already before the pandemic. I can only imagine what it's like now, with with the amount of people who are coming into the hospitals, and it must be just paralyzing and really detrimental to people's health. Not to mention being exposed to the COVID-19 virus. Yeah.
I'm wondering though, this was already happening, and Sarah, you talk about it some in your book. I mean, are we talking about changing the nature of work? I mean, we were already before the pandemic having this bleeding over because we can work. A lot of us can work anywhere. Now we've really found out. We were forced to find out, who can. There's some people who can't. You have the supermarket workers can't Zoom in to do their jobs, right? There's certain people who have to actually physically go to work, but it turns out that there are a lot of people who don't, and that really blurs the lines. And are we, but also they're handing out money, right? And people have been talking about a universal basic income for years, which was never a serious conversation, but apparently, that can happen. I mean, do we have an opportunity to really talk about what work really is? I mean, because Andrea, when you're talking about the 8 hours, I mean, if I had my druthers, would I, work 8 hours a day? There's a lot of other things I'd like to do with my day. Just saying.
Well, yeah, and there are things that I've been thinking about this a lot, right? The way that there are things that we end up making part of our jobs that if we actually were taken care of in a way, instead of trying to monetize all your hobbies, you could just have hobbies. What a concept. I know it's shocking.
I know.
Right? But instead of being okay, I've got to find a way to make going to the movies my job. So I'm gonna go see a movie, and now I feel like I have to write about it, right? This is probably one of the reasons I haven't watched Nomadland yet. Is I'll feel gotta write about it now because it's my job, and it sort of sucks the enjoyment out of it.
Yes.
And I'm still mad at Dolly Parton for doing the side hustle commercial.
But
Wait, what side hustle commercial?
Did we miss a Dolly Parton? Dolly Parton rewrote 9 to 5 to be 5 to 9 for the Super Bowl ad for Squarespace to talk about how everybody has a side hustle after their main job. And I was just like, Dolly, no.
I know she didn't talk to Jane first, because Jane would have kicked her butt on that.
I mean, it's bonkers, right? Because 9 to 5 was based on a workers' struggle. A movie came out of the actual organizing of women. There's a wonderful documentary about 9 to 5, the organization now too, that's streaming on PBS. That's not the last movie I watched, but I think they extended it all the way through March because it's really good. And it's yeah, look at that. 9 to 5, what a concept, what a shocking idea. We could limit how much we work.
Last year, Sarah? Wasn't that the one that you're talking filmed a year ago, 2 years?
Yeah, I mean it's new, right? It wasn't. Most of it is archival footage and stuff, right. But it's
9 years.
Yeah, it's streaming on PBS now.
Really good.
As secretary, you need to be the best you can be.
This group of women whose voice was not being heard.
There's something you can do about it. Everything exploded.
The movie was married to a movement. They built their own kind of feminism, and it was powerful. I'm not just a secretary, I'm a secretary.
Yeah, and like, I just, oh, Dolly, what are you doing? We don't need, I'll have a side hustle. I swear we don't.
But what you're talking about, Sarah, is this. You're right. I mean, everything becomes work, and in some ways, like I play tennis. I work very hard at playing tennis, but I'm still playing tennis. I'm not professional. I'm not trying to make a living at it. I just have fun with it, right? But turning everything into work, or having to make money for it, and it sort of reminds me of the Uber drivers and folks like that, who are sort of chasing this dream. And I mean, any of these folks that you talk to, they're not making a living at it. And I just sort of have this horrible dystopian vision. This actually kind of gets us into your movie, LAPSIS, of this just future with people just bits and bobs of crappy little jobs, and it doesn't really add up to anything. And maybe it's
like it's right. Like, how do we stop all this? I don't know. I'm a freelancer. Like, I do bits and bobs of everything. It makes it really hard to turn off. It makes it really hard to say no to anything. It makes it really hard to like not focus constantly on work, because every minute that I'm not working is maybe a minute I'll never get another offer to write something.
But silver lining, technology, which it has us to a degree, to an extent, in this position, in this situation, also spreads the word. And I think that for women, there are instances in which the speed at which information travels from one point of the world to the other is so quick, and so are the passions for movement and for advancing. And true story, my sister just a few weeks ago was being, she had her boss and the conversation wasn't very nice, and she was trying to speak, right? And the guy started speaking over her. She pulled a Kamala Harris all the way in Panama, like, and it was efficient, right? And the meeting stood up to her. But what I'm saying is, that same technology that puts us in this situation also gives us like examples of how to handle things. And by that standards, I think it's quite brilliant that we can learn, hey, quiet, I'm speaking, all the way in Panama. And then I think she said it in Spanish, but the message was there and clear, nicely.
Yeah, I guess it's just harder when you're not Kamala Harris to tell people to sit down and shut up.
Oh yeah, no, but
like you can say, like, I mean, this is the same thing with like Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In, right? It's like, okay, this is great advice if you're already the executive.
Right.
But like when you're the person at the ground floor, if you tell your boss to, eat it because you need pregnancy leave, like they're just going to fire you. So yeah, I feel like, I don't need examples of telling people to shut up. What I need is not to be penalized for it.
Right.
I know how to do it, but like,
Gotcha.
I sit around worrying that if I say something too mouthy on Twitter, that that'll be the end of writing for a certain publication.
Gotcha.
Because it's just like everything is a possible reason that you could get, have work consequences. And yeah, like I just don't think it's like individual women's fault that there's still a gender pay gap, because we, and studies show that like if we negotiate like men, we don't get the job because we're seen as a pain in the ass. And like, I am a pain. Part of the problem is my job is to be a pain in people's ass, right? I'm a journalist. My job is to like call up people and ask them for comment when they don't want to give me a comment. Right. But like the same thing that they teach you how to do and be sort of relentless about when you're doing the job, you get punished for when you're trying to get work.
So we're about time to wrap up here, sisters. So I just want to check in with you real quick. Each of you would tell you a few words about the films you're going to do Q&A for. You're going to do question and answers for. So Andrea, you want to start first?
Yo ando buscando a mi hijo. La última vez que lo vi fue hace 2 meses. Mi hijo desapareció cuando tomó un camión que iba para la frontera.
Indícame si reconoce algo.
Yo sé el empaque. Le digo que a mi hijo lo asaltaron.
No ande preguntando esas cosas en público. No sabe quién la puede escuchar.
You have been found guilty of improper entry into the United States of America. You're now in removal procedures.
¿Cuánto hace que las cosas están así?
Ando con cuidado, carnal. Por aquí la cosa está bien caliente.
Oiga, no le voy a hacer nada.
De espaldas te pareces a él.
Todos nos parecemos de espaldas. Mi mamá quería que me fuera. Casi nunca le mandé nada.
Las cosas no andan como para estar hablando con desconocidos.
Levántese. Tenemos que irnos. No voy a volver hasta encontrarlo.
Aquí se está perdiendo mucha gente. Algunos en el cruce y otros cuando los regresan.
Es que mi hijo puede estar muerto, pero yo tengo que saber. Si usted sabe algo, dígame.
A few words about this film. I think that one of my biggest takeaways of having watched the trailer and read a little bit about and read about the movie is the fact that we know what immigrants are going through. We know the plight, and timely as well. President spoke yesterday about kids being held in the border. But what I love about it, it's that it's not the statistics that we see in this movie. It's not the angle of the immigration problem itself, but we see it through the eyes of mom. I think that's huge, because she created that life, right? And that life is in danger. It's like her own life is, or worse, it's like her own soul and all of the future of her soul and all her next lives. That's what's at stake. And I think that feeling as a mother, to me, it's huge. I can feel Magdalena's pain, and I'm really looking forward to this movie.
Thank you, sis. Sarah?
They have chosen to abuse us, to leave us behind and out here injured while their CEOs and shareholders get rich on our backs. They don't care about us. But guess what? They're not out here. Out here, it's just us. And we've got each other. And today, we finally have a way to force them to stop and listen.
Ready to go.
Yeah, so I'm doing the Q&A for Lapsis, which is a fictional future or present or something movie that I have not seen yet, so I can't say that much about it other than that we don't get that many movies about work, but maybe that's starting to change with Sorry to Bother You and now this, that we are actually going to see, like we were saying before, like the workplace as a site of interesting storytelling again, because it's certainly where like so many of us spend so much of our lives.
Well, thank you both for being part of the film fest. It's like, as you both I think spoke to really eloquently, I always look forward to the film fest. I work on it for months, and then when people show up, and Sarah, maybe it's like when you do a book event, or Andrea, when you do a organize an event, and all to have all the people show up, it's such a wonderful feeling. And to having a bunch of people on Zoom watching a film is better than nothing, but it's not the same. But I'm really looking forward to seeing these films with you, and I appreciate you being part of the Film Fest. And I think, Elise, you're going to do our official wrap up here, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much, sisters. It was a great conversation. And I'm really looking forward to both films. And I'm looking forward to reading your book too, Sarah. It's right up my alley. You know, I'm Coalition Labor Union Women, and we are talking about what's happening in women in work and the impact of this pandemic. So thank you all, and thank you for being part of DC Labor Fest, and giving up your time. I know you got other things to do, even though you can't leave your house. So thank you, and we'll see you next time. And enjoy.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.